We're ready to roll. And I think we'll start with Denny. Denny, why don't you say who you are, where you live, what you're running for, and why you're running for that.
My name's Denny Myers. I live at 949 North Washington Street. I was born and raised in Delphi. Graduated from high school here. Been mostly the biggest part of my life, been in the trucking business, managed trucking business, owned trucks, drove trucks, and I guess once in a while I notice a lot of things. Like you go to a little league ball game of your grandkids, and you don't see anybody you know, and that got to bothering me a lot. And the reason I think that is because when kids graduate from school here and stuff, they don't stay here. They don't come back. They go to college, and there's nothing to do here. No business of any kind, no manufacturing, and I think we need to grow our housing population, and I'd like to be a big part of that. Bring manufacturing, housing, and that kind of thing back to the way it was years ago. You didn't have to leave Delphi for anything. Everything was here.
I have a question.
Okay.
And you guys can have questions too. But when you say housing, do you mean rentals or owner-occupied?
Owner-occupied houses. Build housing communities.
Okay. All right. Shonda, you want to go next?
Shonda Isaacs, born and raised here in Delphi. Spent the last 24 years here within the Delphi school system teaching. Took an interest in educating myself throughout my teaching career, not only as far as a bachelor's and master's in education, but also in business. Haven't put that into place because I've been teaching, but just wanted to diversify myself. That way, if I ever decided to divert away from education, I had something to go back on. Currently working on my doctorate. Entering this election was not an easy decision for me because I have been dedicated to my position as a teacher, but I feel strongly that this community deserves more than what it's been receiving. I feel like our current mayor and city council has been on a spending spree that drastically needs to stop. We are in a bad position financially. I'm not really convinced that the citizens of this city realize just how bad it is, because if you don't go to a city council meeting, it's kind of hard to know what is actually going on. If you do go to a city council meeting, it is quite eye-opening.
And you've been to quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the budget meeting just this last week was a little depressing, but I just feel like I can give back to the community in another way other than what I've been doing, and I know it's going to be a tremendous uphill battle. It's going to be a battle, I believe, with the council that's currently in place. But things have to change. We cannot continue down the path that we are going in. Otherwise, we're going to be bankrupt pretty quick. So.
Thank you. And Julie.
I'm Julie Price. I was born and raised here. I've lived here for 53 years. Been married for 31 years. Have 3 kids. My children all attended Delphi and graduated from here. I did hair for 10 years, and then I started working in education, and I currently work at Twin Lakes, and I am a secretary-treasurer there, and have held that position for 8 years. So I currently work the ECA accounts at our elementary school, and I wanted to run for the clerk position here because I just feel like Delphi needs a change. I'm a taxpayer first, and I feel like the taxpayers, they deserve a change. That office needs to be a little bit more transparent, and I feel like that's something that I could give the citizens of Delphi. I'd like to see that change come through, and I think that I could I could give you that. I have to be held accountable every day in the office that I work in, and I think that's something that I could bring to Delphi.
Great. So I wanted to ask a question, a kind of a clarifying question to you all. Of course, I attend most of the city council meetings and things like that. Is the mayor the boss of the city council? Denny?
No. No, the city council, actually the city council votes on a mayor's ideas, I guess. A mayor cannot be a dictator, so to speak. No.
Mm-hmm.
It's, that's why you got a council to vote on.
And,
Be a-
but it seems now that the city council goes.
Yeah, that's not to piggyback on what was brought up here, that the budget it was a very depressing thing to go to. And I've been going to city council meetings and Board of Works meetings for probably 5 or 6 years now. And it just keeps going downhill, downhill, downhill. And that's got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the city's going to be in big trouble, if not already.
And Shonda, what do you think?
I think the citizens should be the boss of the council and the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
The citizens are the ones that elect them. It is their duty to listen to them. I just made the comment the other night in a conversation that it's sad that more members of the community don't go to the meetings, but I think we're all guilty at times because we're all very busy. But then again, I don't feel like the citizens should have to be at the meetings because those people have been hired to put in place to make sound decisions for the community.
So are you in agreement with how it happens now, or what?
Well, I think there should be some opposing votes. I don't think it should be everybody voting yes on everything.
And that's pretty much what happens.
It
isn't
is.
Yeah.
Very seldom do you ever hear a naysayer on anything that's voted on. Very seldom do you ever hear questions asked. I don't think the format that is being used is wrong as far as things are presented and voted on. But the people voting on those should be representing the concerns of the citizens and not their own personal opinion.
Julie, you've never been to a city council meeting?
I have not.
Okay. Have you watched them on my YouTube channel?
I have not.
Oh my.
I know. I've heard of some of them though. And
Yeah.
after reading the paper a few times,
Thank you for reading the Carroll County Comet.
yeah, sometimes some of those articles have made me a little sick to my stomach when I find out some of the stuff that's happening. I really feel like the citizens should have a say in a little bit more of the stuff that happens
Mm-hmm.
in some of the stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a little scary reading some of the stuff that's happened. I'll just say that.
It's kind of scary being there. Yeah, yeah. So, anybody have a question? Anybody want to ask?
Oh, you know.
Of course, go with it, Sandy.
Not having been to one of the council meetings, give me an example of what you're talking about that must be atrocious.
Overspending. A lot of stuff that's being signed off on, money that's being spent, and no explanation for it.
Where's the money coming from? Where will the money come from?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't think a lot of people know where that money's coming from. I think citizens don't know where it's coming from. There's no explanation for it. When people are asking where it's coming from or where it's being spent or where it's being sent to, or, I mean, coming from different funds, people are not getting answers. And I would like to know myself. I'm a taxpayer. I'd like to know that stuff. When there's no answer in articles that I read, I'd like to know that stuff myself. That's what scares me. I mean, I'm a taxpayer myself, and as a taxpayer, I'd like to know those answers.
So how would it be different if y'all were up there? If you were the clerk treasurer, you were the mayor, and you're on the city council, how would you make it be different? And I don't care who answers.
I think I'd be asking a lot more questions, asking, why are we signing off on this? What is this money for? Why are we trying to pull it from one fund to another? you know, what are we trying to do with this?
Mhm.
I would be asking questions. And if I didn't know the answer to it, or if the person that I'm asking this question to was giving an answer, if I wasn't satisfied with that, then I would ask somebody else. I'm a person who asks a lot of questions.
Mhm.
So if it wasn't something that satisfied me, I would ask somebody who had a little bit more experience and say, hey, this isn't setting well with me. What is your thought on it? Before I sign off on anything.
Shauna,
So
what do you
is,
think?
so is the budget not adhered to?
I don't feel like it is.
Well,
But there is a budget.
I don't.
There's-
That's just my personal opinion. I don't feel like it is.
there is a budget, but, you know, lines, money can come from one line to another and not where it's intended to be. And that, a lot of that happens, I think.
Do you mind if I go next?
You go.
You go for it.
For example, I've seen a lot on social media about Indiana Packers and the water purchase and all that. They're a consumer just like we are. And there was an agreement years ago that we supply water to Indiana Packers and wastewater. For 35 plus years, that millions and millions of dollars have been paid by Indiana Packers, and that money's been used on everything else. And now, the water's getting increased 11%, and the sewage is 40% because it's being bonded. We got to borrow the money now because all that money's been spent elsewhere on. We got to slow down. In my opinion, we got to slow down on extra projects like the trails, things like that. That's got to stop. We can't keep spending millions of dollars. The city's got 20 miles of streets and 11 miles of trails. I took it upon myself to go out and sit at Trailhead Park out here a couple different times for 2 or 3 hours and watch people pull in, bring trailer loads of bicycles and stuff and ride their bikes and carry on and what have you. And the idea, people's idea, what I'm told is it brings people to town to spend money. They load up their bicycles on their trailers and what went out of there, and there was 3 carloads of them, 3 pickups and their trailers. Went out there and made a right and went right back to Lafayette. They didn't go to Delphi and spend a dime. That's just one example. And
What would you do to fix it?
stop spending money.
No more trails? What?
Well, for now, we've got to pay our bills. We owe $20 plus million that we borrowed to bring water up to the hill up here because there again, I think I read the state requires 5 years to clean the tanks, the towers. We still got one at Indiana Packers was put in the 80s. It's never been cleaned. It hasn't been done yet. And I haven't researched it yet, but I question here, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, the annual water report that the city's required to do every year, we forgot to do it, just forgot. That's my opinion, the water wouldn't pass inspection, that's why it forgot to do it.
Shonda, you got anything? Do you have anything to say?
As far as working, how things are done now, I feel like for 20-some years, I'm used to working either with a team or with a department. I don't come in here every day and do this job by myself. I feel like you need the same kind of atmosphere within the city. Those council members have been voted in for a reason. You just don't sit at a meeting and everybody votes yes and passes through anything that's presented. It needs to be a team effort. Things need to be hashed out. If you don't have the money, you don't spend it. You make appropriations when absolutely necessary, but it isn't something you just throw on the table as if it's as the current clerk treasurer would say, making money in the basement, which that literally is what it seems like the plan is at the point. But
Well, sometimes it seems like the council wants her to go down to the basement and pick the tree.
yeah, and you kind of have to chuckle because that's just about how ridiculous it really is. So, no, I really think it needs to be a team effort. Again, there needs to be discussion. one person presents something, it should not be automatically voted through.
Well, and the other thing that happens is that when an ordinance, the law says that an ordinance is read 3 times on 3 different occasions to allow the public time to comment on that.
That's not what's happening.
And that's not what happened. They read it once, they suspend the rules of adoption, that would be suspended the law, and right there, make it go.
That
That's done.
happened Monday night,
That's
Yeah.
done
more than once.
4
Yeah.
times Monday night.
Yeah, I didn't count, but yeah. Yeah. So I take it that you would not really want that to be happening if you
No.
were mayor.
You don't, people in the community don't have an opportunity to know what's going on when you ram it all through in one night. That's the whole point of having a procedure.
And Julie, what kind of, I mean, I know that you work in finance now at Twin Lakes, but do you have any specific training for to be
Every year.
Purdue graduate, to be really, I love Purdue. Okay. But so, would you be going to training to learn the specifics of that job? You know who gives you your marching orders in that job, don't you?
Every year I have to take training in the position I'm in.
Good.
I have to renew my state board of accounts training. I have to do my internal controls. Every year I have to renew those.
Oh, that's good that you know those words.
More than willing to do those. More than willing to take any kind of training that I need. Like I said, I'm a person that asks questions. If I don't know the answer, I find the answer or ask somebody who does know the answer.
That's good.
I'm not afraid to take the training, not afraid to educate myself. So, yeah.
So who else has questions? Oh, good.
The money that they're building those new apartments down there behind
Front Street.
Body Works.
Yeah.
So how much money did the city give to those people to help them out to get those apartments going in the right direction?
1.7 million,
Gave it to them, correct?
pretty much.
Is that right? Well, and they also got tax abatements, well, not tax abatements, but they got tax things to alleviate some of the spending, I think. Yeah.
So was that for engineering and all the permits and everything? Is that what this money was for?
The way it was presented, it was to help offset the cost of those, to help bring those apartments to town.
I didn't hear her response. What'd she say?
She said she understands that the money spent was to help bring the apartments to town for, different levels. And I do know that there was a developer before the one that is working there now. And that developer decided not to do it. But the mayor bought his plans. And for Gail, how much did she pay for the plans? Front Street, not listening, for the Front Street apartments.
The architectural design plans were $200,000, and we did not have to pay for those because we actually made the contract assigned before the deadline, so the city did not have to
Okay.
incur that cost.
Okay, so-
But we offered.
Yeah, we offered to pay that, yeah.
That initial developer, it was a $12 million project, and he wanted the city of Delphi to pay 45% of that, of $12 million. That was the very first proposal. Mr. Mayor thought that was quite all right.
So who else has a question?
I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm going to preface my question and provide a little bit of information about the budget. I'm a teacher. I hear a question. I want to answer it.
And
The
you might tell them that you're a former city council member.
Yeah. The money comes from property tax and income tax that is used for the budget. In 2023, the council approved a budget that basically took $3.1 million from the general fund. That was the majority of the budget. Throughout this past calendar year, they have basically doubled that expenditure. by appropriating, transferring, and spending additional funds. This excessive spending has significantly depleted the general fund, which had a healthy balance of multiple millions, and it's down to about 2. The city currently has 4 outstanding utility bonds over the past 10 years. And you mentioned that those were around $15 million. I think there's still over $10 million left to be paid. And just last month, the clerk treasurer signed the mortgage, putting the city building up for collateral with the bank here in town to take out a mortgage for another $2 million. To my knowledge, no effort has been made to pay down this debt other than just pay the monthly principal and interest payments. I'd like to know if you have a plan, if you have some other steps, because I've heard you, both of you mention here on this end to stop the spending. I'd like to know if there are other ideas that you have, other avenues that you plan to bring us back to a more solvent financial footing. I know you mentioned something about an audit, and I'd really like to hear you speak to that as well.
I think that office, the clerk's office, needs an in-depth audit. I don't know how long it's been since it's had one, but I honestly think that it should probably have one, because the State Board of Accounts doesn't matter who's sitting in that seat, whether it's me or somebody else. As soon as you take possession of that seat, you're responsible for whatever has happened. Doesn't matter whether it's day 1 or it was 10 years ago. You're responsible for whatever happens. And I don't know if, I really feel like an in-depth audit needs to be in place in that office before anything can happen. Just so we can kind of get to the bottom of what's been going on in that office. Because if, like you said, if we have a $2 million mortgage on the city building, we need to get to the bottom of some things before anything else can happen. And I know that it's going to cost money, and I hate that it's going to cost money. That is not what I would like to see. Because, I'm not about spending the money, but an audit is going to cost money. But if you can get to the bottom of things and work your way back up.
I have a comment. My name is Carroll, and I served for 32 years on the city council. You're right, it's very different now than it used to be. Just as a correction or a comment, certainly, sounds like a correction, but the clerk treasurer is not allowed to speak at council meetings unless she is asked her opinion. She cannot just bring up and say, you don't have the money for that. If the council votes for something, then the money has to come from someplace. And there's definitely been the rainy day fund, various different funds some of the lottery money comes to the city. So there's a lot of different funds that some of this can be taken out of at various times. I have attended various council meetings recently. I too am shocked at the way the business is conducted. I think there's not enough public knowledge shared. It seems like, is there a motion to approve and in 3 seconds everything is done? I just think that there's not enough consideration, and one person on the council cannot do it all. There has to be some cooperation. So there needs to be everybody understanding what's happening, not just 2 people. Certainly there's been audits. I think that's an assumption that is incorrect. There's always audits. We couldn't operate without audits. So the clerk treasurer's office is not doing anything wrong. I think that needs to be clarified, because, the clerk treasurer's office has to abide by what the council and the mayor have voted, because that's supposedly the public opinion, because they've voted and they're representing all of us. So that's the way it goes. I'm just clarifying.
Yes.
So, Carolyn, does that rule for the clerk treasurer not talking, is that a state rule or is that Delphi council rule?
No, it's the state, it's the law. They have to take the minutes, unless a council person says, what do you think? The clerk treasurer is not supposed to offer an opinion. And sometimes,
Well, she doesn't give an opinion about what they're approving, right? Or wanting to approve. They just can't, she can't give her opinion on the project that they want to do or they want to approve and spend the money.
She basically is not to speak unless she's addressed.
But it does happen.
That ain't gonna happen for you.
No.
Not me.
If anybody watched the video from last Monday, there was a huge discussion about police cars.
Yeah.
And at one point, and I know she's not supposed to talk, but somebody had to say it, you know? And she said, you don't have enough money for this. You don't have enough money for this, you know? So, and she did do that.
So when does that get brought to the public? If the
It was in my
treasurer doesn't say
story.
that?
It was in my story that I wrote that came out yesterday.
Well, I meant, if she didn't say that in the meeting,
Oh, yeah.
when does that get told to all the rest of us?
It's not, it doesn't.
When you read it in the paper.
Yeah.
Unless it comes up in a meeting, you know. I don't know that they don't have enough money for that. I mean,
Yeah.
if you watch the video, I mean, you'll see the back and forth, and, well, I want 5 cars, I want 10 cars, you know. I've got 7 on order, that kind of thing. It was just kamikaze. And I've talked to the clerk treasurer, and she says this, and and Leanne goes, no, now wait a minute. Part of that is true. So, you know, unless it comes up in a meeting, and I'm there, you know, doing my job, it doesn't get to the public. I mean, there are minutes. I don't know, you know, what her account of for that meeting was. Yeah.
I want to address like 3 different topics. Number one, Julie, there was an article probably a month or so ago where our clerk treasurer said that I don't have any experience in accounting, I don't do this, I don't do that, I'm a bookkeeper. So I think we're headed in the right direction with your ideas. Mayor, there was also, a year ago, I asked for the agenda for our town meetings and nothing was ever done. Would you be willing to publish that in our newspaper on the front page, pay that fee for that subscription, so these people in here can see, put it on the website and say, here are the objects, here's what's going on, here's what we're going to discuss.
Well, I've gone to look for it before and can't find it either.
Yeah.
So-
And they do have a website. I mean, there's no reason it cannot be there.
And it's on there occasionally, but
Uh-huh.
even if it is, it's like right before the meeting takes place.
Well, she doesn't.
It's not done in a timely fashion.
No, she doesn't send the agendas to me, and legally she has to, until like Friday afternoon for the next Monday morning, or Monday meeting. So
being who now?
The city councilman,
Being who?
the mayor.
The mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, clarify that.
Okay.
the city councilman, would he be willing to state on the record in your newspaper along with hers and hers, how many properties that the city of Delphi owns as far as what they've done to improve the properties and then board them up and say, okay, here's $100,000 sitting here that this gentleman in the red coat knows nothing about. I'm picking on you. You don't know that. There's a piece of property that we own. You know, these things go on, and it's his job to bring it to the forefront, in my opinion, to say, okay, guys, what do we do?
You mean with the city council is supposed to do that?
Yeah. it's the mayor's job also to cut her allowances. She can spend $50,000 without somebody telling her $50,000 I can probably buy a couple of houses in Delphi without anyone going in.
And that's changed. It used to be 5,000.
Yeah, it went from 5,000.
But the state says it can be 50.
And I heard the city councilman say in your newspaper again, well, that's such a small amount, but they've increased your trash. They've increased your trash over 50%. Your water has gone up almost 200%. You know, that amount of money buys a lot of bread for my cupboard. You know, it's not the amount of money, it's the percentage. And I argued and got the mayor and this voted herself a raise that was horrendous. It was horrendous, folks. It was almost 40% her first year in office. Now,
But I gotta say, the mayor doesn't vote on
well,
raises.
I know, but the city council, everybody voted and said, okay, congratulations, you did this
You
money.
spoke about the city council,
Yeah.
they had to approve that.
Yeah,
Those are the
kind
three
of
of
the
the-
things that the general public, unless they attend these meetings, they have no clue.
Let me give you an example. The Board of Works, and by the way, I think there's 4 city council people out here that used to be city council people, and there's not one of them that were afraid to say no in their day, I guarantee you. But the Board of Works meeting last, it was on the 2nd, I believe. The meeting lasted 4 minutes. They gavelled it, did the pledge, gavelled in, did roll call. You might have to help me, $1.something million. Nobody asked a question, nobody nothing, they gavelled out, that was 4 minutes long.
They approve claims.
It-
They always,
But it never is itemized, nobody asks questions, it's never itemized. And I
Well-
think years ago it was 5,000, wasn't it, Carolyn? Or Dale or somebody. The Board of Works couldn't spend X amount of dollars without the council approving it. Now they spend,
Well, not only is that 1.7 million, I don't know, Gail could probably answer this, is that 2.5 million still set aside for our housing project up on the hill?
well, there was 2 plus 1, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it still set aside somewhere?
didn't that get moved?
I know you asked at the council if we needed that money when you were on the council, if we needed that 2.5 that they set aside for the housing project that was,
The 2.5 million was broken down to 1.5 was going into residential for the apartment complex. 468,000 got moved to rainy day because legally you could move 15% of your your budget from the prior year into rainy day, but you typically wait till the end of the year to do that to see if you have money left over. And there was another $500,000 to be appropriated from general fund into other line items for things like consulting and engineering and code enforcement. So that evening, there was